So Hollywood actor and rapper Terrence Howard was just on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, and honestly, a lot of it just felt like I was in the Twilight Zone as he was talking about his views on science. I felt like I had to keep rewinding to fully grasp what he had to say, and to be honest, I still don't have complete understanding over it. And this is nothing new. He was on Joe Rogan last year saying similar things. I mean, you know he was appealing to those deep into conspiracy theories when an account called Illuminati Bot says Terrence Howard is on some deep esoteric stuff when speaking to Joe Rogan about the periodic table of elements and its relationship to sound. And hey, just like with everything, I say take it with a grain of salt, but it's also good to question what you've been taught. That's a point for another day though, because there were also times on the show when it seemed like he had a complete and utter mental acuity, particularly when he was talking about manhood.
You know, there's a short life in
why do you think that is with the creative side?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take drugs. You're going through so much shit to try and deal with life. It's an unhealthy space. So eventually you're going to go too far. You know, there's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. Well, when you lose your man card, you lose your damn man card.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it. A man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying. You don't get that back. You come into this world as a man one time. You give up that right for anything, for fear of being hurt and for wanting to gain something. When you give up that man card right, you lose some spiritual energy that has always been pushing through.
I mean, real quick, here's what I have to say, and hear me out. There are some parts of what he said that I don't necessarily agree with, because obviously he's talking about homosexuality, and I don't automatically look at two gay men and think, oh, they're less manly and they forfeit their man card. But I never thought of it in the way of spiritual energy. That principle can apply to any situation in which you compromise who you are. When you behave in a way that is contradictory to who you truly are inside, the reason it hurts is not just because it's inauthentic, it's because you're messing with the connection between yourself and God, or whatever divinity you believe in. That's the whole reason people do all these spirituality practices, so they can connect with their true self. Deep stuff, and it's even leaving Patrick in awe.
But when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there, because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, it's gone. You don't have any foundation to pull yourself back from. So maintain your man card, no matter what.
Man, I mean, you know, one of the things you're seeing, you went to a whole different place.
Sorry.
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. You need therapy.
Yeah, so like hot take, I don't think there's anything wrong with going to therapy if you're a man. And in the case of Justin Bieber, I wouldn't say he gave up his man card considering how young he was in the industry at the time and was easily manipulated by Diddy. I mean, I think the adult men who were complicit, whether they were actively participating in those parties or they just knew about it, yeah, I totally lost respect for them. But in the case of Bieber, I remember thinking, what a freaking a-hole when he was younger and acting out. And now I even have more sympathy for him. Obviously, he's no perfect angel, but you can tell how messed up he got because of all this. And you know it's understandable to a degree why he'd lash out. And you can tell he was looking for a way to deal with it. You know, when he turned to Jesus.
You might not be used to this kind of atmosphere, but what you're feeling right now is the presence of God. And he doesn't need perfect people. He just wants to use average, ordinary, broken people like us, you know?
And that talking about broken people hits harder now because you could tell he's broken and he knows it, and we all are to an extent, which was made even more apparent in recent days now that all this Diddy stuff is resurfaced, when Justin Bieber hasn't been looking as good as he usually does because he's still unhealed from all this crap. So again, Terrence is absolutely right. It changes you in a way that's harder to come back from.
And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they started with. So it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principle. And what we were brought in here as men. We produce 1,500 sperm per heartbeat for a reason, because the aggression is necessary. You don't trade that in, no matter what.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
You said no.
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in and make the approach. And you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back.
Now, obviously, threatening violence can get you in trouble, so I wouldn't advocate for that. But in the case of Diddy, or any piece of crap who obviously gets off on the idea of being in a position of power and doing it by any means necessary, even taking advantage of people without having guardrails to put you in your place. I don't know Diddy's life, but if there was that Terrence Howard figure to tell him, stay in your lane or there will be consequences, things maybe could have gone differently for a lot of innocent victims. I mean, thankfully, Diddy will likely be in jail for years and will lose his man card if he hasn't already.
It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept. So always be the man in the room. And that's always been my whole thing. And have lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play gay roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that because the man card means everything.
I had no idea we're going to go this direction with the podcast.
Now, Terrence did get some backlash from people for what he said, like Ray Lewis. Mind you, Diddy is a serial R-word, but Terrence Howard over here on some I ain't with that gay shit, and focusing on the fact that he had sex with other men because apparently being gay is worse than being an abusive predator. Or RK Relentless. Terrence Howard recently said on a right-wing podcast that he doesn't bend over, kiss a man, or do gay roles because of his man card. That this isn't about manhood, it's homophobia. The irony is glaring. Howard has played characters involved in drug dealing, abuse, and exploitation, yet draws a line at portraying a queer person. Not because of morals, but because he thinks it compromises his masculinity. Continuing to say it's toxic masculinity, the belief that a man's value is tied to domination, emotional suppression, and rejecting anything queer or feminine. Pointing to Howard's history of DV. Saying queer roles can be powerful, liberating, and life-saving, that visibility and representation mattered, that it challenges stigma and affirms people's existence, that refusing to participate that isn't pride. Finally saying masculinity doesn't need protecting. People do, especially those who've been silenced, erased, or harmed under the guise of manhood. It's time to redefine strength, and it starts with empathy, inclusion, and courage. Which, yes, Terrence did admit to hitting his wife in an incident from 2001, and said it was because of his upbringing and not knowing how to handle frustrations, but that with his new wife and baby, he's grown so much. And also cites Eckhart Tolle, which look, I don't condone any of it, but having a rough upbringing can explain it. As he said that when he was 2, he witnessed his father kill a man, and that he grew up in an abusive household and has expressed remorse that he continued his father's ways. Again, not condoning it, rather explaining it, and some people can change if you give them a chance. But back to the people complaining about Terrence saying he has double standards and that he's okay with abuse and predatory behavior. No, I don't think that's what he said. He's talking about his view on masculinity. And if you have such an issue with him not wanting to play a gay role, I don't know what to tell you. Just saying that's a reflection on you. And I might even argue that he's not a homophobe, just that he won't play those kind of roles because it's inauthentic to him. Because when Jussie Smollett was originally accused of creating that hate crime hoax, Terrence defended him, who is openly gay by the way, saying the Jussie I know could never even conceive of something so unconscious and ugly. Even posting a video of Jussie on Instagram saying, we all love the hell out of you. So yeah, I could argue that he's not just a homophobic bigot. Maybe there is some homophobia there, but not someone who can't tolerate to be in the same room and will just bash them at every corner. And while I don't fully agree with everything that Terrence said, if he's had experience with violence or drugs and can play those roles, but gay roles are inauthentic for him, so be it. And for that, I do have some respect for Terrence Howard. And guys, I want to thank you all for watching this video as always, and if you appreciated my commentary, please give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to this channel, hopefully I've earned a subscription. Here's some more videos for you to watch in the meantime. Until next time, peace out.